The ships that dropped out of hyperspace were unlike anything Captain Lee Taman had ever seen. They were sleek and white, with hulls that seemed to shift and change as he watched. Each one was 3 times the size of a normal Earth battleship. "Sir," Lieutenant Park Ji-woo said, his voice filled with wonder, "I'm getting a transmission from the lead ship." "Put it through." A calm voice filled the bunker. "New Busan Colony. This is Fleet Admiral Song Tae-kyung of Earth's Supreme Fleet. We received your broadcasts. Hold your position. We're taking over now." Lee grabbed the microphone. "Admiral, this is Captain Lee Taman. We have civilian survivors in the bunkers, but our defenses are gone. The Vorthak have 20 ships approaching your position. We see them, Captain. Don't worry. We've been hunting these creatures for longer than you know." On the main screen, they watched the impossible happen. The human ships moved into attack formation with perfect coordination. Their hulls began to glow with blue energy. The Vorthak bioships tried to surround the human fleet, using the same tactics that had worked against colony ships. But these weren't colony ships. The first human ship fired. A beam of pure white light cut through space and hit a Vorthak vessel. The alien ship didn't explode. It simply stopped existing. "What kind of weapons are those?" Major Yoon Soo-jin whispered. More beams fired from the human ships. Each shot destroyed a Vorthak vessel instantly. The alien bioships tried to return fire, but their energy beams bounced off the human ships' hulls like raindrops. "The hulls are adapting," Dr. Choi Yoonji observed. "Every time a Vorthak weapon hits them, the armor learns how to stop it." Captain Ryu Junho's voice came over the radio. He was the captain of the lead ship. "ESF Incheon to New Busan. We're clearing the orbital space. Prepare to receive landing parties." "ESF?" Lee asked. "Earth Supreme Fleet," Park replied. "I've never heard of them." The space battle was over in 15 minutes. 20 Vorthak bioships destroyed without a single human loss. The alien reinforcements that were supposed to finish off New Busan were now floating debris. "Sir," Park announced, "landing ships are approaching. They want to land at our position." "Clear the landing pad," Lee ordered. The first Supreme Fleet transport touched down outside the bunker complex. The ship was beautiful, with curved lines and engines that made almost no sound. A ramp lowered and soldiers began to emerge. These weren't ordinary Earth Defense Force troops. Their armor was black and silver, fitting perfectly to each soldier's body. Their weapons looked more like works of art than tools of war. They moved with the confidence of warriors who had never known defeat. The first soldier to reach the bunker was a woman with the rank pins of a Commodore. She was tall and carried herself like someone used to command. "Commodore An Mi-young, Strategic Operations," she said to Lee. "We're here to help with cleanup and evacuation." "Evacuation?" "Captain, this colony is finished. But your people are heroes. Everyone in Earth space has heard about your stand here." Lee felt confused. "How did you get here so fast?" Earth Command said the nearest fleet was 3 weeks away. "We weren't in Earth space. We were conducting deep operations beyond the rim when we received your transmissions." "Deep operations?" Fleet Admiral Song Tae-kyung himself walked into the bunker. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. But when he looked at Lee and his people, there was only respect. "Captain Lee," the Admiral said, "you and your people have done something incredible. You held off a full Vorthak invasion force with nothing but courage and determination." "Sir, we lost most of our people. We failed to save the colony." "Failed?" Song laughed. "Captain, you destroyed their hybrid facility. You prevented them from creating super soldiers. You bought time for dozens of other colonies to prepare their defenses. How is that failure?" Colonel Bae Sung-woo stepped forward. "Admiral, what is Earth's Supreme Fleet?" "We've never heard of you." Song's expression became serious. "We're Earth's answer to threats like the Vorthak Empire. We've been fighting them in secret for 5 years." "5 years?" "The Vorthak have been testing human defenses all along the rim, taking small colonies, studying our responses. We've been hunting their scout fleets and learning about their technology." Dr. Choi looked up from her medical scanner. "That's why your ships are so advanced. You've been preparing for this war." "Exactly. And your broadcast gave us the intelligence we needed to find their main fleet." Commodore An activated a holographic display. It showed the local star systems with red dots marking Vorthak positions. They thought they were being clever, taking one colony at a time. But your resistance here forced them to commit their reserves. "What reserves?" 1,000 bioships hiding in the dark between stars. They were planning to hit the core worlds all at once. Lee felt cold. 1,000 ships? We're planning, Song emphasized. Your sacrifice here changed everything. When they had to send reinforcements to deal with your little colony, we tracked them back to their staging area. And we destroyed them. All of them. The Vorthak invasion fleet no longer exists. The bunker was silent except for the hum of machinery. Finally, Sergeant Kim Do-hyun spoke up. So we won? You won, Song confirmed. Not just for New Busan, but for all of humanity. Park was monitoring communications. Sir, I'm getting reports from other colonies. Vorthak forces are retreating everywhere. They're abandoning their conquests. Without their main fleet, they can't maintain their expansion, An explained. The Empire is falling back to their home systems. Lee looked around at his surviving people. They had started this battle as a forgotten colony on the edge of space. Now they were being told they had helped save humanity. What happens now? Lee asked. Now we rebuild, Song said. The Supreme Fleet will help relocate your civilians to safe worlds. Your military personnel will be offered positions in our fleet if they want them. And the Vorthak will think twice before attacking humans again. They came here expecting easy prey. Instead, they found warriors who refused to surrender. Yoon smiled for the first time in weeks. They underestimated us. They always do, Song replied. That's humanity's greatest advantage. When the universe expects us to give up and die, we show up with everything we have. Outside the bunker, Supreme Fleet engineers were already working to clear the rubble and help the survivors. Their advanced technology made quick work of tasks that would have taken weeks. Lee walked to the window and looked out at the activity. Ships landing, people being evacuated to safety, medical teams treating the wounded. After 2 weeks of death and darkness, there was finally hope. Captain, Song said, joining him at the window. I have a question for you. Yes, Admiral? Earth's Supreme Fleet could use officers like you. People who know how to fight impossible battles and win them. Lee thought about it. New Busan was gone. His colony was destroyed. But the people were alive and humanity was safe. Where do I sign up? Song handed him a datapad. Welcome to the Supreme Fleet, Captain. Your real war is just beginning. Lee signed his name and looked out at the stars. The Vorthak Empire was still out there and they would be back someday. But when they returned, they would find humanity ready for them, because humans don't fight alone. When one of them calls for help, all of them answer. And that makes all the difference in the galaxy. Captain Lee Taemin looked at the 200 faces gathered in the main bunker. These were all the fighters left on New Busan. Marines, miners, doctors, engineers, anyone who could hold a weapon. They all knew this would be their last battle. The plan is simple, Lee said. We're going to destroy the hybrid facility and ourselves with it. The fusion bombs will make sure nothing survives. Commander Shin Dong-wook stepped forward. He was a special forces officer who had arrived with Major Yoon. His face was covered in scars from a dozen battles. My team will lead the surface assault. We'll draw their attention while the bomb team moves through the tunnels. Corporal Nam Jae-sung held up a small device. The fusion reactors are ready. I can trigger them remotely, but someone needs to get within 500 meters of the facility. That's a suicide mission, said Dr. Choi Yoon-ji. They're all suicide missions now, Lee replied. The question is whether we die for nothing or die to save the galaxy. Tech specialist Oh Kyung-mi was working at a computer station. She had been studying the Vorthak technology they had captured. I might be able to shut down some of their bioships. Give our assault teams a better chance. How? The Vorthak ships are alive. They have nervous systems like animals. If I can hack into their control systems, I can confuse them, maybe even turn them against each other. Colonel Bae Sung-woo spread out a map of the tunnel system. The miners can get us within 200 meters of the facility. But once we surface, we'll be in the open. How long do you need? Lee asked Nam. 5 minutes to set up the bombs. Then everyone needs to be at least 10 kilometers away. Lee did the math in his head. We can't get that far in 5 minutes. I know. The room was quiet. Everyone understood what Nam was saying. The bomb team would die with the facility. Sir? Lieutenant Park Ji-woo called from his radio. I'm picking up movement from the Vorthak ships. Looks like they're preparing for a major assault. They know we're planning something, Yoon said. Probably picked up our communications. Then we go now, Lee decided, before they can stop us. The assault began at dawn. Commander Shin led 50 fighters out of the bunker through the main entrance. They moved fast across the ruined colony, firing at everything that moved. The Vorthak warriors came out to meet them. The battle was fierce and loud. Shin's team had orders to make as much noise as possible. Every Vorthak that chased them was one less defending the facility. Meanwhile, Colonel Bay led the real attack team through the mining tunnels. 60 people crawled through dark passages that had been dug by machines and enlarged by explosions. The air was thick with dust and fear. "Movement ahead," whispered one of the miners. They had reached a tunnel that connected to the alien facility. Through a crack in the wall, they could see Vorthak workers moving strange equipment. The hybrid laboratory was just beyond them. "Oh, are you ready?" Bay asked through his radio. "Working on it," came the reply. "Tech specialist." O was somewhere above ground trying to hack into the alien ships. On the surface, Shin's assault team was taking heavy casualties. The Vorthak had brought out their biggest warriors, creatures the size of tanks with armor that could stop almost any weapon. "We can't hold much longer." Shin radioed back to the bunker. "Just a few more minutes." Lee promised, but minutes felt like hours when people were dying. In the tunnel, Nam was preparing his bombs. The fusion devices were small but incredibly powerful. Each one could level a city block. Together, they would destroy everything for 50 kilometers. "Bombs are ready," Nam reported. "I just need to get close enough to plant them." "Sir, I've got something," O announced. "I'm inside one of their bioships. These things have a central nervous system I can access. Can you shut them down?" "Better. I can make them attack the facility." On the main screen in the bunker, they watched as one of the Vorthak bioships suddenly turned and began firing at the hybrid laboratory. Then another ship joined it. The aliens were fighting each other. "Now!" Lee ordered. Bay's team burst from the tunnels. They ran across open ground while the confused Vorthak ships fired at everything around them. Some of the hybrid creatures in the laboratory were already dying from their own ship's weapons. Nam reached the facility first. The building was huge and alive, with walls that pulsed like a heartbeat. He planted his first bomb at the base of a support structure. "Bomb 1 is set," he radioed. Vorthak warriors came running toward the facility. They had realized what was happening, but it was too late. Nam planted the second bomb near the power source. Green energy crackled around him as alien machinery tried to stop him. "Bomb 2 is set." A Vorthak warrior reached him. The creature was fast and strong, but Nam was desperate. He planted the third bomb while fighting hand-to-hand with the alien soldier. "All bombs are placed," Nam announced. 60 seconds and counting. Get out of there!" Lee shouted over the radio, but Nam was surrounded by Vorthak warriors. There was no escape. "Tell my family I died for something important," Nam said calmly. The explosion lit up the sky. The fusion bombs turned everything within 10 kilometers into burning plasma. The hybrid facility, the Vorthak warriors, the alien ships, and Nam all disappeared in a ball of fire brighter than the sun. When the light faded, there was only a crater where the laboratory had been. In the bunker, the surviving humans watched the mushroom cloud rise into the sky. They had won, but at a terrible price. "Sir," Park said quietly, "I'm getting readings from space. More Vorthak ships are approaching." Lee looked at the screen. 20 new bioships were entering the system. The aliens were bringing reinforcements. "How long before they reach us?" 2 hours. Lee looked around at his remaining people. They had maybe 100 fighters left, almost no ammunition and no more fusion bombs. "Sir," Park said suddenly. "Wait, I'm getting new contacts on the sensors." "More Vorthak?" Park stared at his screen. His face went from despair to confusion to hope. "No, sir. Those are human ships, and they're big." On the main display, new contacts appeared at the edge of the system. Not 20 ships, but 150, and they were moving fast toward New Busan. "Sir," Park whispered, "I think help has finally arrived." Lee stared at the screen. After 2 weeks of fighting alone, after losing so many good people, reinforcements were actually coming. But who could have gotten here so fast? And why were their ships different from any design he had ever seen? The answer would change everything. 1 week into the siege, Captain Lee Taemin stood in what remained of the colony's command center. Half the screens were broken. The other half showed red warnings everywhere. They were down to their last defensive position. The Vorthak had pushed them back to the central bunker complex. 40,000 civilians huddled in the deep shelters below. Above ground, only 200 Marines were left alive. "Ammunition report," Lee said quietly. Sergeant Kim Do-hyun looked at his tablet. "Enough for maybe 6 hours of heavy fighting. After that, we're down to knives and harsh language." Lieutenant Park Jiwoo was still at his communication station, but now it was just a single working radio. Sir, I'm getting reports from the outer colonies. The Vorthak fleets are moving toward the inner systems. They'll reach the core worlds in 2 months. Lee nodded. Every day they held here was another day for Earth to prepare. But it felt like they were trying to stop an ocean with a paper dam. Major Yoon Soo-jin limped into the room. Her left arm was in a makeshift sling from yesterday's fighting. The eastern tunnels are compromised. We had to seal them with explosives. How many did we lose? 12 Marines and Engineer Han. Lee felt the loss like a physical blow. Han Woo-jin had been working on turning the fusion reactors into bombs. Now that knowledge might die with him. Did he finish the reactor modifications? Most of them. Corporal Nam thinks he can complete the work, but he needs time. Time was something they didn't have. A new voice echoed from the darkness of a maintenance tunnel. Captain Lee Taemin? Everyone spun around, weapons ready. A figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man in torn colonel's uniform, covered in dirt and dried blood. Behind him came 20 people in mining gear. Colonel Bae Sung-woo, the man said. We've been trapped in the deep mining tunnels since the invasion started. Lee stared. We thought you were dead. Your transport never made it to the spaceport. Crashed in the mountains. My pilot died, but I made it to the mines. Bae looked around the ruined command center. Looks like I missed quite a party. Dr. Choi Yoonji rushed forward to check the colonel and the miners for injuries. Most were hurt but walking. Where have you been for a week? The mining tunnels go deeper than your maps show. We found natural caves that the Vorthak haven't discovered yet. But we also found something else. Bae pulled out a small recording device. The aliens aren't just setting up camps on the surface. They're building something big. The recording showed images from a mining camera. In a cleared area near the colony's edge, the Vorthak had constructed a massive biological structure. It pulsed with strange lights and was covered in tubes that led underground. What is that thing? Yoon asked. We watched them for days. They're bringing captured humans there. Not just from this colony. From ships we didn't even know they had captured. Lee felt sick. How many humans? Thousands. And they're all still alive. Dr. Choi studied the images on her medical scanner. This structure, it looks like a laboratory, but bigger than anything I've ever seen. There's more, Bae continued. We managed to get close enough to take readings. The energy signature matches human genetics, but it's been modified. Modified how? They're not just studying us anymore. They're making something new. The room went quiet except for the distant rumble of Vorthak machinery. Everyone understood what this meant. Sir, Park called out. I'm getting a signal from above. Someone's requesting permission to take off. Take off? In what? The colony still has one working fighter. Pilot Officer Lim Hai-wan wants to do a reconnaissance flight. Lee had forgotten about Lim. She was young, maybe 25, and had been grounded since the first day when the Vorthak shot down all their aircraft. Her fighter had been hidden in an underground hangar. It's suicide, Yoon said. Their air defenses will destroy her in seconds. Maybe, Lee said. But if she can get close enough to that facility to take detailed scans, I'll do it, came a voice from the tunnel entrance. Pilot Officer Lim Hai-wan walked into the room. She was small and quick with the confident walk of someone who belonged in a cockpit. My fighter's been modified with stealth plating. I might be able to get close enough. And then what? You can't land. You can't come back. I can transmit the data before they shoot me down. You need to know what they're building. Lee looked around the room. Everyone was watching him. The decision was his alone. Do it. 20 minutes later, they watched on the surviving monitors as Lim's fighter rose from the hidden hangar. The small ship moved fast and low, using the mountains to hide from Vorthak sensors. For 10 minutes, it looked like she might make it. The fighter reached the alien facility and began its scanning runs. Data started flowing back to the colony's computers. Then the Vorthak spotted her. Bioships rose from the surface like angry insects. Energy beams filled the sky. Lim's fighter dodged and weaved, but there were too many enemies. Data transmission at 90%, Park reported. Come on, Lim, Yoon whispered. The fighter took a hit, then another. But Lim kept flying, kept transmitting. Transmission complete, Park said. On the screen, they watched Lim's fighter explode in a ball of fire. She had gotten them the information they needed, but the cost was everything. Dr. Choi was already analyzing the data. Her face went white as she read the results. What is it? Lee asked. They're not making weapons. They're making soldiers. Human Vorthak hybrid soldiers, she showed them the scans. Inside the alien facility, thousands of humans were connected to biological machines. Their DNA was being rewritten combined with Vorthak genetics. If they succeed, Choi continued, they'll have warriors with human intelligence and Vorthak strength. They'll know how humans think, how we fight, how we feel. How long before they're ready? The process takes about 2 weeks. They started when the invasion began. Lee did the math. They'll be ready in 7 days. Colonel Bay stepped forward. Then we have 7 days to stop them. With what? We've got 200 fighters and almost no ammunition. We've got Corporal Nam's bombs and a lot of angry humans. Civilian leader Kang Min-ho spoke up. The miners know those tunnels better than anyone. We can get close to that facility. Lee looked at the data from Lim's sacrifice. If those hybrid soldiers were completed, they would be unstoppable. Every human colony would fall. All right, he said finally. We're going to destroy that facility, even if it kills us all. Sir, Park said quietly. What should I tell the other colonies? Lee thought for a moment. Tell them that New Busan is still fighting. Tell them we won't let these things be born. Outside, the Vorthak were preparing for their final assault on the bunkers. Inside, the humans were planning one last desperate attack. Neither side knew that in 7 days everything would change. Captain Lee Taeman was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He dropped the metal cup and ran to the command center of New Busan Colony. His boots hit the floor hard as red lights flashed everywhere. What's happening? He shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Park Ji-woo looked up from his screen. His face was white with fear. Sir, we have contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Lots of them. Lee looked at the main display. His heart sank. 200 red dots appeared around their planet. Each dot was bigger than anything in their small defense fleet. Are they ours? Lee asked, but he already knew the answer. No, sir. The ships, they're not human design. They look like giant insects. Lee grabbed the communication device. All units, this is Captain Lee. We have unknown ships in our system. Battle stations now. The colony of New Busan sat on the planet Kepler 442b, far from Earth. 50,000 people lived here, mining rare metals from the ground. They had 800 Marines to protect them. It had always seemed like enough. Now it looked like nothing. The first enemy ship moved closer to the planet. It was huge and black, shaped like a giant spider with legs that moved in space. Other ships followed it. They made no sound, but everyone could feel them coming. Sir, we're getting a transmission, Park said. Put it through. A terrible voice filled the room. It sounded like insects clicking and metal scraping together. Then words formed in their language. Humans of this world, you will surrender. Your genetic material is required. Resistance will result in harvesting of all biological matter. Lee felt cold. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need help. Park's fingers moved fast on his controls. After a few minutes, he looked up. Sir, the nearest Earth Defense Force fleet is 3 weeks away. They say they cannot reach us in time. 3 weeks? Lee stared at the screen. The alien ships were already moving into attack position. We don't have 3 days. Sergeant Kim Do-hyun burst into the command center. He was a big man with scars on his face from old battles. Sir, our sensors show ground forces preparing to launch. Thousands of them. What kind of ground forces? Spider-like creatures. Some as big as tanks. They're in drop pods getting ready to fall from their ships. Lee closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, his voice was calm. Send word to all civilians. Emergency Protocol 7. Everyone to the underground shelters now. Sir, what about our defense plan? Do-hyun asked. We stick to it. We make them fight for every inch of ground. Maybe we can hold out long enough for help to arrive. But even as Lee said it, he knew help would not come in time. The first orbital bombardment started 5 minutes later. The alien ships fired beams of green energy that cut through buildings like hot knives through butter. The colony's shields held for 30 seconds before they failed. Dr. Choi Eun-ji ran into the command center as the building shook. She was the colony's doctor and scientist. The bombardment isn't random, she said quickly. They're avoiding the residential areas and the genetic research lab. Why would they do that? Because they want us alive. That message about genetic material, I think they mean it. Engineer Han Woo-jin appeared next to her. He was covered in dust from a collapsed tunnel. Sir, I can keep the power running to the shelters, but our surface defenses are taking heavy damage. How long can we hold? Lee asked. Against this firepower? Maybe 6 hours before they can land troops safely. Lee nodded. Then we have 6 hours to get ready for the real fight. The ground shook again as more energy beams hit the surface. Through the windows, they could see the alien ships getting closer. The spider-shaped vessels moved in patterns that hurt to watch, like they were alive. "Sir," Park called out. "I'm picking up movement from their ships. Launch bays are opening. Here they come," Do-hyun said. He checked his rifle and headed for the door. "I'll get the men ready." "Wait," Lee stopped him. "What do we know about fighting these things?" Dr. Choi pulled up files on her tablet. "The Vorthak Empire. We've heard rumors from other colonies. They use biological weapons and creatures instead of machines. Their warriors are fast and strong, but they can be killed with regular bullets." "Good, what else?" "They harvest genetic material from intelligent species. They use it to make their weapons stronger. If they take this colony," Lee understood, "they'll know everything about human biology, and they'll use it against every other human world." The sound of drop pods hitting the surface echoed through the building. Hundreds of them, falling like deadly rain. "Jiwoo, send a message to all human colonies. Warn them what's coming." "Yes, sir." Lee picked up his rifle and checked the ammunition. Around him, his people were doing the same. They all knew this might be their last day alive. "Listen up," Lee said to everyone in the command center. "We're outnumbered and outgunned. No one's coming to save us, but we're not just fighting for our lives. We're fighting for every human in the galaxy." He paused as another explosion shook the building. "Those things out there think we're just animals to be harvested. They think we'll roll over and die. Let's show them what humans do when someone threatens our families." Do-hyun smiled grimly. "Where do you want us, Captain?" "Perimeter defenses first. Make them pay for every step. When they break through, we fall back to the next line. Keep falling back until we reach the underground shelters. And then we hold. No matter what." The first Vorthak warriors appeared on the screens. They moved on 6 legs fast as hunting cats. Their bodies were covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. Some carried weapons that seemed to grow from their arms. "Positions, everyone," Lee ordered. The battle for New Busan was about to begin. Lee knew they would probably all die here. But maybe if they fought hard enough, they could buy time for other colonies to prepare. The aliens had expected easy prey. Instead, they were about to learn that humans don't surrender. They don't give up. And they don't go quietly into the dark. The first shots rang out across the colony as human Marines met Vorthak warriors in the smoking ruins of what had been a peaceful mining town. The siege had begun. 3 days into the battle, Captain Lee Taemin had lost count of how many times they had fallen back. The Vorthak warriors kept coming like a black tide. Every position they held became a grave for good Marines. The humans were down to their last defensive line when something impossible happened. A single ship broke through the alien blockade, racing toward the planet's surface with enemy fire chasing it. "Incoming friendly vessel," Lieutenant Park Ji-woo called out. His voice was rough from 3 days without sleep. "It's a supply transport." Lee watched through the smoke-filled air as the small ship crash-landed in what used to be the colony's main square. The pilot was either very brave or completely crazy. "Get a team out there," Lee ordered. "Bring whoever's on that ship to safety." Sergeant Kim Do-hyun led the rescue team through the burning streets. The Vorthak warriors seemed confused by the new arrival. They hesitated just long enough for the humans to reach the crashed ship. The pilot who climbed out was a woman in Major's uniform. She had short black hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Behind her came 20 soldiers carrying heavy packs. "Major Yoon Soo-jin," she said when Do-hyun brought her to the command center. "I've got ammunition, medical supplies, and bad news." "Let me guess," Lee said. "No reinforcements are coming. Earth Command has written you off. They think you're already dead." Yoon set down her pack with a heavy thud. "But I had supplies heading to the Centauri colonies. Figured you could use them more." Dr. Choi Yoon-ji rushed forward to help unload the medical supplies. "How did you get through their ships?" "Luck and stupidity in equal measure." Yoon pulled out a data pad. "I also brought intelligence on what you're fighting. The Vorthak Empire has taken 12 colonies in the past month. They always use the same pattern." Lee studied the information. "They're not just conquering. They're collecting. Every human they capture goes to their biolabs. They're building something with our DNA." Yoon's face was grim. "Whatever it is, it's big enough to scare Earth Command into silence." A new voice joined the conversation. Then we better make sure they don't get what they came for. Everyone turned to see a man in civilian clothes walking toward them. He was tall and thin with the careful movements of someone who knew how to use explosives. Kang Minho, the man said. I used to be military before I came here to mine. Been organizing the civilians while you soldiers do the dying. How many civilians do we have left? Lee asked. About 40,000. They're all in the deep shelters. But the Vorthak are getting closer every day. Corporal Nam Jae-sung appeared from behind a pile of supply boxes. He was young, but his hands were steady as he handled the explosives he had been unpacking. Sir, these charges could bring down half the colony if we place them right, Nam said. Engineer Han Woo-jin looked up from a computer terminal. His face was lit by the blue glow of the screen. I've been thinking about that. If we can't win this fight, maybe we can make sure they get nothing from it. What do you mean? Lee asked. The fusion reactors that power the colony. With the right modifications, they become very big bombs. The room went quiet except for the distant sound of weapons fire. How big? Lee asked. Big enough to take out everything for 50 kilometers, including all the human genetic material they want to steal. Major Yoon nodded slowly. A final option. I like it. Dr. Choi was checking her medical scanner. I've been studying the dead Vorthak warriors. Their biology is stranger than we thought. They don't just use biotechnology, they are biotechnology. What does that mean for us? It means they adapt fast. The warriors we're fighting today are already different from the ones we fought yesterday. They're learning from every battle. As if to prove her point, an explosion rocked the building. This one was closer than any before. They've broken through the eastern defenses, Do-hyun reported. The new Vorthak warriors are bigger, harder to kill. Lee grabbed his rifle. Then we adapt too. Yoon, can your people help with the next defensive line? Already on it. But Lee, you need to know something. This isn't just about your colony anymore. What do you mean? I monitored communications on my way here. The Vorthak aren't stopping with New Busan. They're moving toward the inner colonies. This is the beginning of a full invasion. The weight of that knowledge settled on everyone in the room. They weren't just fighting for their own lives. They were the first line of defense for all of humanity. Then we hold longer, Lee said simply. Over the next few hours, the humans tried new tactics. Nam rigged explosive traps in the abandoned buildings. Kang led civilian volunteers in hit-and-run attacks using mining equipment as weapons. Han turned the colony's own systems against the invaders. But the Vorthak were learning too. Their new warriors moved in coordinated groups. They used captured human weapons alongside their biological ones. Worst of all, they seemed to know exactly where the humans would make their next stand. They're reading our tactics, Yoon observed as they watched another defensive position fall. It's like they can predict our moves. Dr. Choi was working on something at her lab station. I think they can. Look at this. She showed them tissue samples from the latest Vorthak warriors. These creatures have human neural tissue grafted into their brains. They're not just stealing our genetics, they're stealing our thoughts. The implications were terrifying. Every human the aliens captured made the rest of them easier to kill. How long before they reach the main shelters? Lee asked. Do-hyun checked his reports. At this rate, 2 days. Maybe 3 if we're lucky. Lee looked around the room at his people. They were tired, scared, and running out of options. But none of them talked about surrender. Jiwoo, send a message to the other colonies. Tell them what we've learned about the Vorthak. Maybe it will help them prepare. Yes, sir. Should I tell them about our situation? Lee thought for a moment. Tell them that New Busan is still fighting. Tell them we're not giving up. Park's fingers moved over the controls. His message would travel faster than light to dozens of human worlds. Maybe some of them would have time to prepare. Maybe some of them would survive what was coming. Outside, the Vorthak warriors were gathering for their next assault. Inside, the humans were preparing to meet them. Neither side was willing to give ground. The siege continued, and every hour brought new horrors. But the humans of New Busan kept fighting, because that's what humans do.